Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. Yes, I'd hoped it was all a bad dream, to be honest with you. Especially when I got an email this morning from Spurs um, declaring that England were through to the semi-finals of the World Cup, and that if I wanted, along with everyone else, I could attend a live screening at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium to watch the semi-final next Wednesday. So just for a moment, I thought, was it all a horrible dream? Alas, no, it was not. Doesn't get any easier, does it? These World Cup exits, European Championship exits, major tournament exits. Um, Look, I'm not going to go on for long about the England game. Just going to touch on it briefly because a few things I want to say, especially, of course, about Harry Kane. Harry Kane, honestly, if there's one person you'd probably put your house or life on, if you had to choose someone like one of those weird, like kind of Saw movies or something, where someone has to do something in order for you to live. If it was to do with penalties, you'd probably pick Harry Kane. Let's be honest with you. The man, I know he's missed, I think it's 3 this season, but on the whole, he is a man for the pressure moments, and that's what makes it all the more kind of unfortunate and galling. Even my wife last night, when the first penalty, she said, "Oh, the pressure on him must be humongous. It must be so ridiculously kind of large for him to have to deal with that pressure." I didn't say anything because I didn't want to jinx it, but I think as Spurs fans, we know that Harry Kane is the man for those moments. And obviously, when he put the penalty away, equalled Rooney's record, you kind of thought, okay, that's what Harry Kane does. So obviously, when the second penalty was given, you're thinking, okay, there's a little bit of a different feeling because it's a second penalty. And to be fair, Hugo Lloris had been excellent during the game as well. He'd had a really good game. So you did wonder, is he going to read him this time? Is it more difficult with the second penalty? Kind of the whole psychology of it. The moment you could see the trajectory of it, instantly my thought almost wasn't about really England anymore. It was about, I think, with my Spurs head on, was knowing what was coming for Harry Kane and what was around the corner. I mean, we saw it last year, obviously with horrific racist abuse, which just makes it even worse for Saka and Rashford. But you know that Harry Kane is someone that he's got a lot of football fans out there that don't like him. Obviously from rival clubs, ones he's scored against, who are all kind of just sitting there waiting for him to make a mistake. And obviously when it's a mistake like that, because it was a mistake, there's no getting away from it. It was a poorly executed penalty. He said that himself afterwards. To be fair to him, he fronted up, came out, spoke to ITV afterwards, and he just said, he had no issues taking the second penalty. He wanted to. He prepares to take a first and a second penalty in matches. That's part of his preparation. Strangely enough, he had never, apparently, or very rarely, takes penalties against Lloris in training. It's often against second and third keepers. So obviously this year that would be Forster and Brandon Austin, Fraser Forster and Brandon Austin. But yeah, so he just admitted it was just the execution of it just didn't catch it right, as we saw. And just the moment I saw it going over the bar, I just thought, I just know what he's now going to get for a long time to come, unfortunately. It's just the way it works. Those trolls, they kind of wait for it. Look, I think there's a difference for me between people who, criticising the penalty, and that's fine. I don't think you can argue, and I don't think he can have any issue with that side of things. It's when people kind of use it to be nasty. I mean, and also to kind of say that the World Cup, England's World Cup journey ended because of Harry Kane is just, it's crazy. The trolls are going to ignore the goal after goal he scored for his country. The 10 goals he scored in qualification just to get them to the World Cup. No Harry Kane, they might not get to that World Cup. And then when he was there, 2 goals, 3 assists as well. So it's not like he was just some kind of mug that rocked up to take a penalty having done nothing else beforehand. He will. He's such a mentally tough person. He will come back stronger. It's going to hurt a lot. And I think we'll see how he can process it in the weeks ahead. But he will come back stronger from it. He scored 53 goals from 80 matches in an England team that doesn't always create the most chances. Only 16 of those goals were penalties as well. You know, people will make out, the trolls will make out that, the bulk of his goals. I saw something going around yesterday about all of his goals are penalties against San Marino or something. It's like, crikey, if that's what you need to make your point, okay. But we've got this thing in this country, haven't we, where penalty misses define you. They really do. You make Pizza Hut adverts about it, or was it Pizza Hut? I think it was. Whereas you look at the people that have missed penalties in big finals, and Ronaldo's missed penalties in World Cup. Messi's missed a World Cup penalty. He also, probably even more famously for him, missed a penalty in the Copa America final. I think he retired for a little while after that. These big players have done it, but they don't let it define their career. And of course, they're wonderful players, and obviously, I think with Harry as well, the problem, of course, and that's obviously a lot of the trolls are using, is the fact that obviously he hasn't got the team trophies to back that up as well, to give him kind of solace, as it were. But like I say, a penalty miss should not define your career whatsoever. It doesn't need to be, but just in this country, it's something we do, and maybe it is because the national team haven't gone on to win anything. They've always kind of, not always, but a lot of the times it has ended with penalties. It's a cruel. It's luck. A lot of it is luck. There's preparation. You can prepare for a lot of it, and Harry Kane is the most detailed preparer of penalties there is. Sometimes in the moment, something can go a bit wrong, as it did. So the moment it happened, and honestly, you could see how devastated he was. After it happened, I thought it was really telling and a big kind of indicator of what a person and what a player Jude Bellingham was going to be. He raced up to him. He was the first person to come up to him, put his hand on his head. You could see him saying something to it. That 19-year-old, he's going to be a leader. He really is as well. And then afterwards, you saw Jordan Pickford and Kieran Trippier trying to keep the cameras away from Kane when he was just hunched over. I can only presume he was, getting upset about it, as in, with tears, you'd think. I don't know whether he was or not, or just purely just crouching down, just trying to process, because that's going to be something that he's going to replay in his head until he can exercise the ghost in some way. Of course he is. Other big players as well. Beckham? I'm trying to think if Beckham missed a penalty as well. Well, obviously Beckham's had his red card moment, and Rooney had his red card moment as well. This is the thing: is Kane kind of hasn't had these issues, but he still gets the flack. Look, can't get away from the fact that it was a crucial, massive penalty and a big moment, and he will blame himself more than anyone else. But yeah, it's just kind of the aftermath and the nastiness. And I've seen all types, kind of having a big pop at him and kind of, some take glee. I think sometimes obviously it's fans from other countries as well. I think there's rival fans. I think there's a feeling among some Arsenal fans that Spurs fans gave it to Saka afterwards. I don't know, I'll be honest. I saw someone saying that there's some chant that Spurs do. Honestly, I genuinely did not know that that's the thing. Obviously all I was aware of was the horrible racist stuff that Saka and Rashford get. Saka was brilliant yesterday. I'll talk very briefly about a couple of the players before we move on to Spurs. But, it's just rubbish. It is. Apparently Kane was inconsolable in the dressing room afterwards. So upset in there, really in a bad way. But then, like I say, still came out and spoke to the cameras, ITV as well. I saw he'd put up on Instagram this morning. Absolutely gutted. We've given it everything, and it's come down to a small detail which I take responsibility for. There's no hiding from it. It hurts, and it will take some time to get over it, but that's part of sport. Now it's about using the experience to be mentally and physically stronger for the next challenge. Thanks for all the support throughout the tournament. It means a lot. Yeah, it is. It's going to be kind of the test now for him, how he deals with it, especially for Spurs. Does he let it affect him, or does he channel it into his Spurs performances? Conte's given them about a week and a half around that, roughly, I think a lot of it is their own choice as well, of rest after they exit the tournament. So whether he comes back, if you were to judge, I don't know, let's say, I don't know whether they're heading back today or tomorrow, you'd presume it's today. So you're looking at around Christmas time there. No, sorry, not quite. Let's say 10 days, 21st. So before Christmas. So maybe wouldn't take part in the Nice friendly. And then obviously he's got to think about Brentford and all that. But I don't know. I was about to say, if it were me, which is just a ridiculous suggestion, because this is, I think, is the big thing about trolls and the comments that people make in moments like this. I don't think we can even imagine what it'd be like in that moment. Honestly, I'm sure the majority of us, our legs would be shaking going up to take a penalty, not just in front of 60,000 people in the stadium, but billions watching around the globe. It is something that I can't even comprehend. It's equivalent of trying to go up on a stage, I guess, and sing a song in front of billions of people. But not only that, but knowing that an entire nation is depending on what you do. It's a huge, huge thing. But if it were me, I'm still going to use the expression, I'd think if I were ever to try and put myself in his shoes, I'd probably just want to play football and try and play it out of my system. And that's probably what, make Brentford pay for his pain, I guess, in a way. But he is, every time he's going to have a penalty at the moment, it's going to be like, because he's the kind of guy, obviously, that takes penalties. He takes the responsibility, steps up and does it. But Hugo Lloris was very good afterwards. In the moment, of course, Hugo Lloris was delighted. Of course he was. And understandably so, and rightly so. His country's just had a big let-off. They didn't play particularly well, France. And I thought, in that moment, of course, he was delighted. But his quotes after the game, and I should stress, Lloris was excellent. Lloris made a few really good saves. Couple from Kane. He was, especially, again, pre-match, I saw someone asked him, I don't know from what country it was, but it was English media, and I asked him before the game about thoughts that in England he was the weak link in the French team. And it's just like, let's just let my kind of performance do the talking rather than my words. And he did, to be fair to him. I thought he was very, very good, Lloris. Very composed and calm. So Lloris said after the game, of course we're happy because it's a key moment, but the man that I am is saddened because he is a teammate that I've known for a long time, a man that I respect enormously and someone who took responsibility at an important time. Unfortunately for him and the England national team, he put it over. Unfortunately for the France team, because it was a turning point. I know he is strong and that he will overcome, but I can only share this moment of pain with him. The English team put in a big performance and the French players deserve credit. That's a proper captain speaking, Lloris. There's not a lot you can say. This is the thing. I don't think there is a lot that people can say to Kane. I think all of his processing now will be done by himself. Even his family, he'll have his family around him, but ultimately only he can process it himself. I did see this morning, very unfortunate. I was absolutely not aware of its presence until this morning. There's a video from St George's Park that was done. I don't know when it was done. It looks like a fair few years back, of Johnny Wilkinson, John Bishop, going to England training session with Kane, and Johnny Wilkinson teaching him to hit the ball over the bar because that's what he did as a rugby player to win the Rugby World Cup. And obviously now that looks awful, and Kane even does it as well in the video. It's one of his hindsight things that you just never kind of expect to come back. And also, I do remember this, after the Liverpool 2-2 draw, I think it was the Wanyama Rocket game, Kane missed a penalty, but then scored one late on, like 95th minute or something. And he says to the camera something like, "You can't give me 2 tries." And it's like, oh man, just the way words can be used however long later to kind of beat you, like used as a stick to beat you with. I think they're going to be doing the rounds today as well. And there's the old cliched ball on the moon kind of thing, or ball in another country thing. It's football, it is football and it's sport. That's what happens, unfortunately. This is the situation they put themselves in, and it's rubbish. But I guess that's part of the psychology of it all, and making yourself strong enough to deal with it. And I have no doubt that Harry Kane will. Just very briefly on the England match itself. I know I said it'd be brief and it's been 14 minutes, but I had a lot to get off my chest. It is cathartic, and I thank you for, if you have listened to me, for getting it kind of off my chest as well. But as for England, I thought Kyle Walker was excellent against Mbappe. Ironically, the one time, obviously, that he wasn't able to stick with him was the break that came from a very dodgy foul overlooked in the build-up. And I think it was too long before for them to kind of revisit. But other than that, I thought Walker was superb against Mbappe. Gave him so little space. And he was the one that couldn't have, pace-wise, could keep up with him. I thought he played very well. I thought Declan Rice, especially if you take into the context that he was ill during the week, I thought was excellent as well. He's such a good player. He really is, Declan Rice. And Jude Bellingham, 19 years, 164 days old, the youngest England player to start a World Cup quarter-final. He's so mature for his age. He was trying to drive that team on throughout. He's going to be an incredible player. I think Phil Foden said in the week he could end up being the best midfielder in the world. He's got all the tools to do it. He really has. He's a phenomenal player. Very, very exciting. And Saka. Bukayo Saka, I thought was brilliant. And that, for me, I don't think Gareth Southgate deserves much criticism. I don't, because I think he got a lot of the things right in this tournament. The only one I would question yesterday was taking Saka off. Unless there was an injury thing I wasn't aware of, or he was tired. I didn't understand that, because I thought Saka was absolutely terrifying the French side every time he got on the ball. So yeah, I didn't get that, but there you go. These things happen. I didn't really understand the fact that it was Sterling to come on as well. I know Sterling's played in a lot of big games, but to have been away from camp, obviously rubbish stuff happening at home, terrible stuff, and then to come back, to bring him on, not only for Saka, I don't think Saka should have gone off, but then if you are going to take him off, bringing him on ahead of Grealish and Rashford at that moment, wasn't it? And yeah, I didn't understand that substitution. But look, I'm very much behind kind of Southgate. We've got this thing of maybe overlooking in this country just how well someone's done, because we don't like certain aspects of what they do. So, you look at England under Southgate. What was it? World Cup semi-final, European Championships final. And this one, again, a really good England performance, I felt. On another day, better referee. There's some not dodgy, but as in poor refereeing moments. That foul in the lead up to the French goal, and also, Harry Kane should have had a penalty as well for me. The whole, I guess you could blame the referee, but VAR obviously didn't back him up on that one. I didn't understand that. But yeah, I feel Southgate has kind of taken England further than many or any of the England managers of recent years. There's this thing in football, we always want to see sexy football all the time. But if you always want to play like someone like Spain, Spain took a long time before they won, World Cup and Euro back-to-back. And then since, they've struggled to get back to that. It's not always about the football. It's about developing this kind of mentality within the squad. And I think Southgate's done that. I'd be disappointed, I'll be honest, if he goes off. I don't like the kind of the way he's almost been hounded out. And then he may just decide, why do I bother anymore, kind of thing. But yeah, we'll see with him. But yeah, and with Kane as well, I actually thought Kane played well. Thought his all-round play was very good. Held the ball up really well. It was a good performance, but unfortunately, it will be judged by that second penalty. That's just the way it is. As for going forward in the tournament, I think he also defended really well in his own box from set pieces, as he often does. As for going forward, I think I said previously that I believe that whoever won that match would win the World Cup, and I'm going to stick with that. I think France will win it. I think they will be better than they were last night. They kind of almost got away with a not great performance, which, would mean Lloris lifting back-to-back World Cups would be incredible. I don't think that's been done for a long time. It's a couple of great semi-finals. Morocco will not be easy. Morocco, again, we talk about this team spirit. I think they've been fantastic. Argentina-Croatia game was going to be brilliant as well, but also guarantees Spurs. I am going to talk about Spurs, don't worry. I guess Harry Kane is Spurs, and I have spent the main portion of this speaking about Harry. I do think that, I know that Spurs will have a representative in this World Cup final. It will definitely be either Romero or Perisic. It could potentially be Lloris as well, of course. Actually, on Perisic, wasn't it lovely to see his son Leo run up to Neymar, who was again, a bit like Kane, inconsolable on the pitch, and little Leo ran over. I think the security guard tried to stop him. Neymar saw him and kind of said, no, let him through. And just a really lovely moment of a kid. He wasn't trying to, he's a famous footballer's son. He wasn't trying to get on there as some kind of attention-seeking thing. He was genuinely, you could see, going over there to console probably one of his favourite players in the game. It was a really nice moment. I think it said a lot about the kid as well. So, yeah, when I was thinking about it, Spurs players in international finals seems to be a real thing in recent years. As a club, Spurs are providing players, aren't they, for these big kind of games? You've got Lloris brought the World Cup trophy back to Hotspur Way, 2018. He won it. Obviously, Kane and Dyer in the Euros last year, in the Euros final. Giovanni Lo Celso and Romero won the Copa America in 2021? Yeah, it was last year, wasn't it? Obviously, Romero, technically, it was a couple of weeks before he joined, but we'll count him as well. And then topping it all off, Pape Matar in January won the Africa Cup of Nations with Senegal. So, yeah, Spurs have actually had a really good record in the final. So, the fact that they've got another one in this final is of no real kind of shock. It shouldn't be. But yeah, obviously Pape Matar was on loan at Metz, but he was with Spurs. So right, let's get back purely to Tottenham. 21 minutes in after he said he wasn't going to talk about England for long. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. Right, so we've got a match to talk about, and it's not the England match. It's the Motherwell match, which I didn't get into in the end, despite repeated pleas and trying to point out the fact that you can't have a behind closed doors friendly if it's going to be streamed on Spurs Play. It's no longer behind closed doors, but there you go. It was the first chance to see Spurs in action since 4-3, wasn't it? Leeds. What was that? November 12th. Yeah, a while back. Antonio Conte on the sideline is looking very tanned. He's been somewhere exotic, I'm told. I don't know where, but certainly not the Italian weather. Italian weather is lovely, but this time of year does not get you as brown as Conte is. No, I'm told he went somewhere very nice indeed. So yeah, he's looking well and well rested. And obviously they've got these two matches. This one against Motherwell and the one against Nice on the 21st. So I guess you've got to get them sharp quite quickly. But I still thought that maybe the Spurs players, the first team players, would only play, 60 minutes at the most, maybe even 45. But to be fair, Conte obviously was happy with what he saw out there because they all, or the bulk of them got, actually all the senior first team players got 74 minutes. They properly put a shift in. And a few of them, I'd say, could have finished the game as well. A few of them looked very, very sharp. 9 academy players came on in the 74th minute. And we'll talk about them as well because there was some big kind of moments for them. He didn't have everyone available to him. He was missing, obviously, Ben Davies is out with an injury. He's got, I understand, a very painful injury to his oblique muscle, which is like in the abdominal area. He picked that up actually in the World Cup defeat to England. Recovery period for that kind of injury is supposed to be 3-4 weeks. So it's going to be a little bit tight for Brentford. We'll see how he's going. Might be okay. And obviously, Rodrigo Bentancur also out with his injury. He's obviously suspended for the Brentford match, so he'll be hoping to try and be back for the Villa game. We'll see how that goes. But also missing yesterday. Yesterday, it's Friday now. Ryan Sessegnon, Emerson Royale, Lucas Moura, Clement Longley, and Fraser Forster as well. There's some surprise ones there I think we all expected to see. So Sessegnon, I might have said this in the last video, he's back working on the grass, but he's not yet with the group. I don't know whether that may be this coming week. Hopefully he'll be back with the group. Obviously that's the injury picked up, against Nottingham Forest in the Carabao Cup. Do you remember that one where he couldn't come off because they'd used all their subs and he kind of played through it? It looked like a hamstring one. I'm not entirely sure what it was, but I think by the look of what he was holding after the game, it was his hamstring. But yeah, so this game against Motherwell came a little bit early for him to be involved. And when it comes to Emerson, Lucas, Longley and Forster, they all apparently, what I'm told, picked up little knocks in training in the days ahead. And it was just thought, let's precautionary thing, let's just not use them. Let's not make anyone any worse than they are. So that was the reasoning behind that. So that left Conte kind of having to fill a couple of little gaps. He was able to put out a strongish 11. There were probably 3 players he might not have used. That was, not used in the starting lineup. So Brandon Austin came in goal. Charlie Sayers came on the left of the back 3. And Harvey White came on as a false 9, which we're going to talk about in a little bit as well, because that was quite interesting. But obviously all of those 3 players have had a fair bit of experience of being in and around the first team setup in the last, 18 months or so. Charlie Sayers a little bit more recently. But they knew what they were doing. And yeah, Spurs were good. It's a friendly. Of course, I've got to caveat it massively with the fact that it's a friendly. You can't read huge amounts into it, but you can take certain little things from it. I think probably the main thing you could take is fitness-wise. I thought, yes, I am a little bit bunged up, as you might have been able to tell. Fitness-wise, I thought Spurs looked good, especially taking into account that Motherwell next weekend get back to action in the Scottish Premiership, whereas Spurs obviously got another couple of weeks until their first game. So fitness-wise, Motherwell should be ahead of where Spurs are at, but it didn't look it. It didn't look it at all. Spurs played them off the park, really, the Hotspur Way Park. So I've got some of the stats. Spurs had 61% of the possession, played 590 passes to Motherwell's 334. They had 14 shots on Motherwell's goal, 8 of them on target. And I think the best thing about it, because of the fitness levels, was pressing. There's so much pressing up front. And really excitingly, I was trying to work out exactly what it was, but Kulusevski said afterwards, and we'll talk about it a little bit when we talk about Kulusevski, that Conte's been trying new things with them. And he really was enjoying those new things. I was trying to work out afterwards what that was. Definitely pressing-wise, there was a lot more. Kulusevski, I'd say, had a little bit more of a freer role. He was coming in into the middle a fair bit. So, yeah, maybe we'll get a little bit more of a sense in it with the Nice game. I'll be intrigued to see. I don't know if we're going to get to talk to Conte after Nice. At the moment, I don't think that's happening. And he didn't talk after this little training ground game. But it'd be good to ask him kind of what new things they've been working on. Obviously, the false 9 idea was an interesting one, and the wing-backs were very, very high up the pitch. They were in really, really attacking roles. But yeah, it was good. It was a good little run out for them. Fitness-wise was good. Pressing well as a group, and if they can take that into the season again, I think that's going to be a big thing, because I'll always say it, I don't think Spurs are as good as they are when they press well as a group. That's when they're at their best for me. It was a friendly, so Conte's not going to read much into the fact that it was 4-0 or the dominance of his team or anything. He'll just look at how they responded to the instructions he gave them. And when it comes to that, I think a lot of them did what seemed to be what he was asking them, and they looked sharp as well. The fact that it was a 3-4-3 formation. It was Brian Hill and Kulusevski on either side of Harvey White, kind of coming deep quite a lot to kind of bolster the midfield, which was Basuma and Skip. And you've got Matt Doherty was on the left-hand side because Assess is still coming back, and obviously Perisic being at the World Cup. Jed Spence on the right-hand side, finally getting, I think if that's his first start under Conte. I don't think he had. Did he have a start in any of the other friendlies in the summer? I don't think he did. So yeah, he started. We're going to talk about him because he did very well. Again, friendly, but he did well. And then the back 3 was Charlie Sayers, Davinson Sanchez, Japhet Tanganga on the right with Brandon Austin in goal. And the formation really, like I say, allowed Doherty and Spence to get high up pitch. They really did. Matt Doherty had hell of a day, 2 goals. He did everything that was asked of him. I'll always say it that, excuse me, I'm starting to really bung up now, that Conte's demands of his wing-backs are defenders when Spurs are out of possession. When they're in possession, he wants them to be wingers / auxiliary strikers. And both of them did it very, very well on Friday. I do feel for Doherty. He's obviously really was in a good run of form last season, and that rubbish Matty Cash tackle on him that did his knee, and he's still obviously trying to come back from it. yeah, not really found his feet this season. Shown little glimpses, but in the first half, definitely kind of hasn't been as sharp as he was. But look, it's only a friendly, so obviously it's not going to show the true Matt Doherty. But he looked sharp and he looked fit, and that's the main thing. And he looked to have that kind of instinct to get forward, and that's what you want from him. His first goal showed his composure. It was Basuma, who was very good. I felt, again, got a caveat. When I say they're very good, it was against a struggling Motherwell team in a friendly. So I know people are like, oh, you get to carried away. I'm not. I'm very much not. But obviously, you can only judge on what you saw. And I thought Basuma looked quite sharp as well. And praise the Lord, Basuma and Skip were playing in their normal roles rather than the new Conte roles that they've been given. So Basuma was playing box to box, really. He was doing a lot of attacking passing and Skip was playing in an anchorman role. Hurrah! And, well, again, they looked more comfortable. That's the way to put it. I'm not going to go overboard. But yeah, the first goal was the first Doherty goal was a nicely weighted through ball from Basuma into Kulusevski. Kulusevski finds Brian Hill. Hill, who was very bright as well, he teed up Doherty, cut inside from the right, I think maybe past two people, and then he hit a low shot that the keeper maybe should have done better with, but yeah, it was nicely done, very composed. And his second goal showed a little bit of versatility in that Charlie Sayers had gone off. I don't know if he had a little knock or something, but Doherty slipped back into right side of a back three. And because of that, that meant that obviously his tasks changed when it got into attacking areas and attacking set pieces. So when the corner came in, Kulusevski corner, there was Matt Doherty to head it home. Nice header as well, very good header. So he spoke afterwards. They did a couple of interviews. Him and Kulusevski did like a joint interview on Spurs play. He said it was just nice to get the shirt back on, get back out there. We played well, took the game seriously, and we pressed how we wanted to press and didn't give them any real chances to start the game well. We were on top form. We were on top from the start. So it was quite enjoyable, and I managed to be in the right place twice. This kind of break hasn't happened before, but we were only off for 2 weeks, so it's not like we lost a lot of fitness or sharpness. We're obviously training hard again, as if it's a mini pre-season to try and improve and get even better at that. We're taking it as if we did. Yeah, I don't know what that was. We're taking it as we did in pre-season. Whatever they tell us to do, we're going to work hard and try and get better, as we know we've got a game in 2 weeks against Brentford that we need to be ready for the second half of the season. We took the 2 weeks off, we took the rest, and we've come back and taken training very seriously. And Kulusevski, he was in a proper kind of funny, laid-back mood when it was Milesy doing the interviews. And he asked him about Doherty's attacking ability. And he said, he was chuckling away. I said, he's so good, he's incredible. I took the corner, I told him to go inside and I will find you. And that's what happened. And he said another little funny thing later when we talk about Kulusevski himself. But on the other flank, Jed Spence, yes, of course he was the focus of a lot of Spurs fans' attention. Mine as well, of course, because I've written a lot about him. Obviously, the fans are desperate to see him given a chance down that right-hand side. Spence will be just as frustrated as they will. It's been very slow progress for him since he got in from Middlesbrough. No starts to his name competitively under Conte at all. And look, he's got to. This is what we've always said about him. Any minute he gets, he's got to press his claims and show him that he can take on board what he wants him to do. And I felt he did that. I felt he, of course, this was not the kind of stern defensive test he's going to face when he's in the Premier League. Hopefully he will be in the Premier League. But I really was impressed by his footwork, just how technically superb he is. And when you ally that with his pace, he's a formidable opponent for defenders trying to get him, because he's big, he's tall, he's fast, he's got great feet. He can kind of beat you as a winger, and he can take passes. Charlie Sayers was playing loads of lovely crossfield balls from the left-hand side, and Spence was taking them down as if, it was just like a piece of cotton wool on the end of his foot. He was just absolutely caressing it down to the ground so nicely. Matt Doherty, I feel out of the three wing-backs, has the best probably partnership with Kulusevski down the right. But Spence showed some really good moments of that starting to form with him as well. I was trying to think, there was an early moment. He put in a few early really good low crosses that were really dangerous as well. Kulusevski put him clear. He put him through on goal. It was quite unfortunate. He tried to dink it over the keeper, and the keeper just got kind of a body part. I can't remember what body part it was to him. Maybe if he'd scored that, again, it's a friendly, so it's not the be all and end all. And I'm hoping that Conte would have seen the fact that he was running through as a striker, and that was what he wants from his wing backs. But yeah, that was a nice moment. He set up Kulusevski for a chance as well, if I remember correctly, as well, about the half-hour mark. But ultimately, I was impressed by him. The fans were probably impressed by him that watched. But ultimately, the only pair of eyes that kind of need to be impressed with what felt like an eye-catching performance for me are Antonio Conte's eyes. And I don't think a friendly is going to massively sway his view on anyone. But like I say, if he can see a player working hard to take on everything he's asking of him, he will at least get, you'd hope, more opportunities. And then he needs to take those as well. It kind of almost feels like they need to build a bit of trust between them, both of them, don't they? Conte needs to trust Spence, and Spence probably also needs to trust that Conte has a plan for him, a future, I guess, for him. It's a strange one. I think Spurs have just sent an email through saying that they got that wrong. Possibly. That's to do with, right at the start of the video, the World Cup email. That wasn't a great one from Spurs today. Someone left the schedule button on. Other young players that did well. Harvey White. I think he did well. You can tell that they've been working on it in training. Harvey White is an incredibly versatile player anyway. He's a central midfielder that can play either further up the pitch or he can play as an anchor man. But he can also play at left back. And at a push, really, you can push him out in a wider role in a midfield three on either side as well. But to see him at a false nine was a new one. I didn't expect that. But yeah, it looked like he'd been working on it with Conte in training sessions, knowing that they didn't have a striker. Physically, he's not the kind of player you'd expect to play in that role. But then I guess a false nine, you don't have to be a big man. But no, he played really well. He chose the right moments, I felt, to drop back and help the midfield, and the right moments to burst into the box. Played a superb first-time ball into the pass of Kulusevski for, I think it was Brian Hill's goal. It was very, very good. It was the third goal. Yeah, it was a superb kind of spinning, curling pass into Kulusevski's path. Yeah, I thought he played very well, White. I just feel sorry for him because he's 21 years old now, so he's not a kid anymore. He got appearances in the Europa League. He might have got a start in the FA Cup against Marine. I'm trying to think now. I think he might have started that game. Mourinho gave him a couple of opportunities, but under Conte, lots of nice words about Conte about him and how quickly and rapidly he's improving, but no minutes for him. But no, he played well. Again, you've got to take any opportunity you did. Doesn't matter the opposition, doesn't matter the match. And I felt he did well. I think that was the key thing for me. All of the Spurs players took the match very seriously. They didn't take it as a friendly. They took it as an important game for them. I feel he needs a loan. I do feel he needs a loan desperately next month. Charlie Sayers, like I say, I was really impressed by him. I thought he was very composed, lovely crossfield balls, kind of Toby Alderweireld style passes out to the side. He's only 18, came from Southend not that long ago, maybe a year ago. I think it's rough, maybe almost exactly a year ago. Went off, it was a late call up for the South Korea tour, went on that, and then he had a really serious eye injury, which he's now back from and recovered from, thankfully. And clearly Conte sees a little something in him because, he put him straight into that back line, and he did. He looked very good. Actually, he and White both had chances. I think second half, both of them. Yeah, Harvey White had a couple. One, I remember the keeper saved, and one I think he put over. And Charlie Sayers had a shot blocked as well. But no, he played very well. Yeah, good experience for him as well. And he's obviously had a couple of months out with this eye injury, and now outside him to progress and keep going, because he could be a very good defender. And obviously, like I say, 74th minute, we had the flood of academy players came on. I was really pleased actually, because some of the ones I really hoped we'd see, like Will Lancashire, Alfie Devine, Jamie Donnelly, Alfie Dorrington as well, very well thought of young defender. They all came on, and I thought it was a massive credit to a Spurs team that mostly by that point was like 17-year-olds. There was a lot of 17-year-olds in there. Really, and maybe it's a reflection of Motherwell as well, kept Motherwell out, kept the clean sheet, but also created a couple of chances at the other end as well. The first ones to come on before the bunch were Alfie Whiteman, back from his loan at Degerfors in Sweden. He came on for Austin early in the second half. Would he come on at half time? I can't remember now. 2 days ago, with everything that's happened, seems like a long time ago. So he came on, did well, made one good low save as well. He's quite commanding. You could hear him a lot. Romain Mundell, who's had some good performances in the academy. He came on. He's normally a winger, can play either right or left hand side. He played as a left wing back, which was why Doherty came into the back three. He replaced Charlie Sayers when he went off. He did well. Worked hard down the left hand side. He curled in a great cross for Will Lancashire. Lancashire obviously was one of the flood of players that came on. I think I spoke about Lancashire in the last video, didn't I? £2.5 million deal eventually it will be, if he fulfills his potential, coming from Sheffield United in the summer. He's got 7 goals in 11 games for Spurs in the academy. 6'1", big lad. He's a big lad, but lots of kind of high hopes about him as well. He'll be gutted because the cross came in and he got up above his man, got his head to it. He just didn't get enough power on it, so it was cleared just before it reached the line by a defender. But yeah, there was various players. These are all the players that came on in that 74th minute. So Alfie Devine, Viago Santiago, Maxim Pascozzi. Obviously, he's had his own issues as well. It's great to see him back. Malachi Fagan-Walcott, Alfie Dorrington, Niall John, who I've spoken about in a couple of videos ago, Jamie Donnelly, and Marquis Muir for the final 15 minutes. Well, 16 minutes plus any. Actually, I don't think there was any added time. I think it was pretty much on 90 minutes. But yeah, another important step for a lot of them. Lancashire as well. Lancashire's only 17. Donnelly, I think, is 17 as well. Alfie Devine is now 18, I think. I think Dorrington's only 17 maybe as well. So yeah, really good for them. And nicely timed as well, because Tuesday night is the FA Youth Cup third round tie against QPR at the Lameck Stadium in Stevenage for the right to play either Birmingham or Luton away, I think, in the next round. I'm hoping to be there. I should be there, barring any disaster. I'm looking forward to seeing how they get on. Having this first team experience and first team training in a week will have been a big thing for them. I'm hoping they take that into this game against QPR. So, yeah, should be a good match. Excited to see I've seen Will Lancashire in bits and pieces, substitute appearances. I've seen him live. UEFA Youth League mostly. So I'm hoping he starts this game and I get to see a proper longer look at him. But yeah, players who aren't that old either, more experienced players, we're going to talk about, of course, Dejan Kulusevski and Brian Hill. I mean, Brian Hill's 21, same age as Harvey White. Kulusevski's now 22, isn't he? So you think about the age of these players and just how good they can become. And with no disrespect intended to Motherwell at all, or the Scottish League mainly, they're not going to come up against a player week in, week out like Dejan Kulusevski. He is brilliant. The way I talk about Jude Bellingham, I kind of had that feeling about Kulusevski. I think he's going to go on to become one of the world's best. He really is. They were just chasing shadows. I know it was only a friendly, but he took it so seriously. He pressed so hard. He was up and down the pitch. He was, I've said this before, he told me on tour that he sees himself as a number 10, and this was the most number 10 performance I've probably ever seen from him. He just dictated the tempo of the game. Everything that went through him ended up in something good for Spurs, pretty much. He very rarely wasted the ball. He looked sharp from the off. He had promised. I saw the interview with him just after the Leeds game, I think it was, where he said, because he come back, didn't he? Made 2 appearances, 2 assists, and he said, look, now I'm going to use this break, this little couple of weeks, to go away and properly get myself match fit again after he was out for a month with a hamstring injury, don't forget. and he looks like he's been true to his word. He looks incredibly fit. When I said at the start, talking about this match, that there are a few players that look like they could easily do the 90 minutes. He was one. He didn't look to be tired in any way, shape or form. He was excellent. I mean, look, you don't need a friendly match to quantify just how important Kulusevski is to Spurs, but it was just a nice little reminder of how much a game can revolve around his performance. He was brilliant. Goal, 2 assists, scored within just like 2 minutes. Brian Hill, great pressing down the left-hand side, forced a kind of a loose pass from the defender that Kulusevski picked up, slotted under the goalkeeper. Very nice goal. Well, nice work to make the goal. It wasn't a classic goal, but it was nice work for the goal. Obviously, like I say, put Spence through for that big chance as well. What was the other thing he did as well? Oh, he was in the build-up to Doherty's first goal as well. Teed up Brian Hill as well for his goal. Curled the corner in for Doherty to score his second goal as well. It's just a terrific player. And like I say, he hinted afterwards about these different ideas that Conte's bringing in. And hopefully we'll see more of that developing and what that means. And whether it means, obviously Spurs fans want to see a better style of play, and it may be that these new ideas that Conte's gone away and sunned himself on a very exotic location somewhere thinking about, it could be that it involves a kind of more attacking style as well. You never know. I mean, certainly the fact that Kulusevski says he enjoyed it. Let me see what he says so I can tell you that. He said, "I feel very good. It's been 2 hard weeks of a lot of training, so this game was a little bit hard, but it was very fun. As Matt said, Doherty, we did this in the right way, pressed good, played good with the ball. We have to improve. And we did some new stuff that I like. So we keep working, and it's going to be a good week. It's going to be good weeks." And he was talking about the fact that it was weird that he was playing a friendly as the Croatia-Brazil match was about to kind of kick off a little while after. And he admitted he was actually thinking about it while he was playing. "I thought that too while I was playing. That's life. You have to adapt. We're not at the World Cup. We're here. So we have to improve. And that's what we want to do. Now we'll shower and watch the games, enjoy it on TV. So the best of luck to Even." And it took him an age to remember who the other player was. It was Richie that's playing now. Matt Doherty absolutely gushed forth with praise for Kulusevski. He said, "He's vitally important. You see what he brings to the table when he plays, and you see how he impacts the team when he doesn't play. Always involved going forward, whether he's scoring or creating. And just personally, for myself, I love playing with him as he understands people's games around him and understands my game. I like to combine and link, so when I give him the ball, he can usually lay it off one touch, and we seem to link up well together. He's a pleasure to play with, and we're glad to have him back." So Milesy said, Milesy, you haven't seen Milesy, he's the loveliest guy, Paul Miles. He's the guy that does the... I think you'll see a lot of, on this Spurs play, you see him kind of on the pitch. He does a lot of the interviews of the players and now has become almost a bit of a pundit as well for Spurs play. Very, very nice guy. And he asked, after Matt Doherty had kind of gushed forth with all that praise about Kulusevski, he turned to the Swede and said, "Happy with that?" And he said, he goes, "Yeah, I'm almost going to cry." And it was like, everyone started cracking up. He's got a very kind of dry sense of humour. He's a funny guy, and he's so focused as well. He's a guy that believes, I think, a lot in his talent, but also believes hugely in the ability to improve, and that's why I think he's just going to be world class. He really is. Also, a word about Brian Hill. I thought he was very bright. He was a real pest for them. Technique-wise, flawless for me. There were a few occasions when he was in his own half, collecting the ball in tight situations by the side of his own box, and I felt that he just played the ball out beautifully, dribbling, never looked like they could get near him. He had a lot of confidence. Obviously scored his goal, nice clinical finish as well. I was impressed by Brian Hill. Again, friendly, so Conte won't be looking at him and thinking, "Oh, I can now start him in the North London derby" or anything like that. But it was, again, doing what was asked of him, going into a match as an attacker, scoring a goal, playing a big part. He got assist for Doherty as well. Playing everything that he had to do. Look, I don't know whether he's ever truly going to be Conte's cup of tea. He obviously stature-wise doesn't come across as a Conte player. He's a bit of a diminutive dribbler. So whether that's the kind of person where I think Conte prefers his kind of big attacking types, like the Kulusevskis, like Richarlison's, like Perisic, more than, a little talented dribbler like Brian Hill. But, he does praise him, and he does say that he thinks he's a very intelligent tactical player. Obviously, just the strength. It's building up that strength. It's not getting knocked off the ball. I still think a loan move makes the most sense for all parties in January, so they can go and get some football. And hopefully, I do think he's going to be a very talented, a very good player who will be a terrific player for someone in the future. I hope it's Tottenham. It remains to be seen whether it will be or not. But yeah, the January window will be interesting because obviously I think you've got his situation. I think Lucas's situation is quite interesting. Obviously, had the injury issues with the inflamed tendon, got this knock at the moment as well. Obviously, there's the contract situation with will they, won't they, and Spurs taking up the option to extend it by another year. So technically, it could end this summer. And whether, if a very good deal came in for him, would Spurs look at it? You'd wonder if they maybe would. Especially with all those things I just kind of mentioned. So, yeah, I think the January windows, Conte's made no kind of, he hasn't messed around. He said, we need good players. We need to improve in this window. We need to make signings. So it's all eyes are on Spurs. They are. This match saw a couple of tweaks that Kulusevski was talking about, new things that they were trying, and obviously they looked very good going forward, albeit against a poor team in a friendly. But yeah, maybe we'll get slightly more sense of it against Nice, and then obviously we'll get a real sense of what's been happening when they play Brentford. It'll be interesting because you can have various players at various stages of fitness because, either Perisic or Romero, we definitely know one of those is going to be returning very late and maybe, depending on what they choose to do, will miss the Brentford game. I think the World Cup final is the 18th, isn't it? So, give them, 10 days off from that. They're not coming back, are they, until the Villa game? We'll see. But, yeah. He's going to be working hard with them on these pitches at Hotspur Way, Conte, with his coaches, fitness-wise, but also the kind of philosophy that he wants in the second half of the season. There's been a lot of theories about whether he's been really saving the team for the second half of the season, trying to save their energy for the second half of the season. It could be the case. Look, as horrible as the Harry Kane moment was for him, on the flip side, fitness-wise, you're going to get him having more of a break. Well, I guess more of a break than maybe Conte expected. Maybe he thought England would have gone a bit further. Again, psychologically, we need to see where Kane's going to be with his football. But, yeah, there's a few players like the likes of Højbjerg and Bentancur, obviously, who have had more time to rest. Bentancur, of course, recuperating from that injury. But fitness-wise, Kulusevski is going to be a great example as well of a very fit player for the second half of the season. If you're going to try and take some kind of positives from this stupid, fragmented season, and look, I must stress, the World Cup's been better than I expected it to be in terms of on-the-pitch stuff. Still a lot of issues off the pitch, but on the pitch, some of the games have been very good. But I still would have preferred it in the summer. But for the second half of the season, Spurs are going to be fit and quite fresh. There's not this mad fixture pile-up at Christmas that normally is. A lot of these players have had a break. It's almost like, when you see in the other leagues in Europe having this winter break, kind of, they're going to have this. Of course, other teams have had it as well. Spurs aren't in a amazingly different position to other teams, but we know that one of Conte's strengths are, they are. One of the strengths is when Conte works with them for prolonged periods of time. We'll see what it does. And again, like I said, we're intrigued to see what happens in the transfer window as well. A lot of talk about even the wing-back position. Pedro Porro, of course, Sporting. Talented player as well. Could he be someone that they look at? Certainly be someone they were aware of. I think he was in England, wasn't he, with Man City in the past. So he'll be someone they'll be more than aware of. And obviously, having come up against him twice and he's played well, do they look to move there? Do they look to... Obviously, you'd have to move on probably two of the wing-backs then, wouldn't you? And And Spence, you'd think, would definitely have to go on loan if that were to be a deal they did. So, yeah, I mean, that's just the tip of it. There's lots of little tweaks they could make. I've said before, an attacking midfielder, a central defender. I think all of those things are going to have to be looked at, and any other kind of opportunities that arise as well. Spurs are up there in the league. They're an attractive proposition for players to come in. Financial results are supposed to be coming soon. I know they've been working on this week, I think. So that should come out, whether they have to wait for a working day, whether that has to be maybe Monday or Tuesday. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of players linked with Tottenham in the weeks ahead. Once the World Cup stops, even during the World Cup, I think we're going to see a lot of names. Going into Silverback territory there. A lot of names linked with Spurs. And we'll try to kind of uncover the actual truth and what are the real kind of things and players they're going for and what are the smoke screens. And there's going to be a lot of players. I think Pedro Porro is CAA base. I think he is base. So base are a very connected agency with Spurs, do a lot of stuff with Spurs. I think they're Madison as well, which is why there's been a lot of Madison links. So, it would make sense in that respect for him. Spurs, and I know Daniel Levy, I think, has a lot of kind of dealings with base. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It'll be interesting to see what comes of that one, because he is another young player, 23, I think, and see whether that one comes to any kind of fruition, and if it does, what it means for those other players in those roles as well. Lot to look at, but that's for another video. Lots more to come. We've still got less than a month until the transfer window opens, and then we'll start really digging into that. But don't worry, there'll be transfer talk in the weeks ahead. I just suddenly remembered as I was finishing that I'd seen various Porro talk in recent days. But there you go. Right, I'm going to head off now. Enjoy the rest of my Sunday. Try to put last night out of my mind. And yeah, I will be back. Whether it's in midweek or whether it's next weekend, we'll see. It depends kind of what happens. If the financial results come out early in the week, then yeah, I'll probably do one midweek so we can have a chat about that. And like I say, any other transfer stuff we'll maybe start digging into from the coming videos. So there you go. Right, time to head off. As always, stay healthy, stay safe, look after yourselves, and I shall catch you later. Goodbye.